Very few heroes command the unquestioned respect of the Green Lantern John Stewart. With his military background, unshakable moral compass, and sheer force of will, he's a pillar of the Justice League and represents the absolute gold standard of integrity. He is the one hero you can always count on to do the right thing, which is exactly why his sudden, destructive crime spree in Dakota City came as such a shock, especially for Virgil Hawkins, aka Static. For a young hero like him, John Stewart was a role model and an inspiration, and one of the few African-American superheroes. In a universe dominated by powerful titans who didn't look like him, John was validation that a black man could wield the most powerful weapon in the cosmos and stand as an equal among gods. Seeing any hero turn bad would disappoint Static, but when John does it, it feels like he's been kicked in the teeth. And if you're not familiar with this story, Fallen Hero, well, I can't say that I blame you. I don't see a lot of people talking about this episode of Static Shock, but I definitely think it's worth your time. What I like about this episode is how it manages to explore the heavy, isolating burden of minority representation, gives the villain Sinestro a more compelling, deeply petty spotlight than he ever got in the actual Justice League series, and demonstrates how to conduct yourself when bad actors try to manipulate you. Oh yeah, and it also completely throws the Green Lantern rulebook out the window to turn Static into a human jumper cable. So yeah, let's talk about it. The quick summary of the story is that one day, John Stewart comes to Dakota City and starts robbing banks. With the power of his ring, the police are no match for him, and he effortlessly makes off with cash, gold, and jewels. Now for Static, this is deeply problematic. He knows John, they've teamed up together in the past, and he was someone that he respected. He almost can't believe that it's really happening, so he tries to reason with John, asking him to reconsider because of the harm he's doing. The episode doesn't outright say this, but I think the implication is clear. John Stewart was a highly regarded hero, and the sad reality is that whenever a member of a minority commits a crime, other minorities get tarred with the same brush by small-minded people. At the same time, Static takes John's crimes very personally because he idolized him. The fact that he had judged the man so wrongly damages his confidence, and he responds to this anxiety with anger. Now, of course, it turns out that Green Lantern isn't a criminal. Sinestro had taken John's Green Lantern power battery, used it to charge his own yellow ring and convert it into a green one, stay with me, and is now impersonating John to ruin his reputation. John, meanwhile, is left with a low-powered ring without the means to recharge it, and he has to try to stop Sinestro. When Sinestro was first introduced in the Superman the Animated Series episode Brightest Day, he had been hunting Green Lanterns across the universe, killing them and taking their rings for his own. He's still doing that, but he wants to completely tarnish John's reputation to ensure that people forget about him quickly, which is a far worse punishment than death. Sinestro is clearly very familiar with John. He calls him Johnny, and he has a more jovial tone when talking to him. And John notes that he was one of the Lanterns that took down Sinestro when he first went rogue. Sinestro's whole deal is that he was once a Green Lantern, the very best one, he argues, until the Guardians of the Universe felt intimidated by his power and they turned against him. In reality, Sinestro misused the power to intimidate and bully people, and he was forcibly removed. He did not take that rejection very well at all. What I find more interesting about Sinestro, though, is how little he was used in the DC animated universe. Outside of that first appearance in Superman, in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, he was primarily a member of Grodd's Secret Society / Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call them, acting as their version of Green Lantern. He was never the star, he was always a grunt following someone else's orders, so this is a rare chance for him to step into the spotlight. And Sinestro's whole motivation is that he wants to avenge himself, feeling that he had been wronged. He gathers up Green Lantern rings with the aim of getting enough power to take on the Guardians of the Universe and eventually take over. Prior to this episode, he didn't have a lot of personality, particularly in Justice League, although I will say that this worked very well in Superman. It made him seem cold and ruthless. But Static Shock does wonders for his character. Yes, it does take some liberties with the way Green Lantern's abilities work. Hey, why are John's eyes still glowing green when he gives up the ring? What, so yellow rings can become green rings now? Since when can electricity power a ring? But overall, it's one of the stronger Green Lantern stories in the DCAU. I know there will be some people left scratching their heads, wondering why the creative team didn't just adapt the Sinestro core and his whole fear energy storyline. Well, the simple answer is that storyline hadn't been written at the time. Sinestro was one of Green Lantern's premier villains, yes, but when Fallen Hero aired, I'm pretty sure Sinestro had been dead in the comics for about a decade. Granted, I'm not a Green Lantern comics expert, but I recall his return in Green Lantern Rebirth being a big deal. Regardless, for as much as they flesh out Sinestro, what I think works best in this episode is how it handles a delicate topic like representation. For a young black hero like Static, John is proof of concept, validation that they belong at the highest tier of heroism. So when John seemingly turns, it feels like a more profound betrayal. A betrayal of their culture, almost. Sure, if Batman turned evil, Static would be disappointed, but with John it cuts deeper because when a minority hero falls, unfair societal biases often mean they drag the perception of others down with them. The episode captures that heavy, isolating feeling of being let down by an icon who represents you. And what I particularly like is how they never explicitly say this. Virgil never says, Green Lantern was important because he looks like me, but the way he acts tells us that, and that's some good writing that trusts the actors to convey the feeling without using words. Similarly, the way John resolves the situation is really well written too. He knows he can't defeat Sinestro on his own without his ring, and he knows that he can't really prove that he's innocent, so he lets Static figure it out for himself. When Static and Gear are led to the real John Stewart by Sinestro and they fight, John gets close to Static and hides his ring inside of Static's pocket. Sinestro wants that ring, it's his primary objective, and the only way he'd be able to get it is by revealing himself. If John Stewart turned up asking for his own ring while still wearing it, well, you see how the pretense would fall apart. At the same time, when Virgil discovers it, he goes to John to ask what's going on, and is informed. And while I do find the resolution a little tough to swallow, like seriously, when do cosmic alien artifacts run on an AC/DC current? It's still an uplifting moment that shows the power of trust and collaboration versus the weakness of deceit. At the same time, Sinestro's plot feels very relevant to our own times. At the time of writing this, outlets like the BBC have reported on Russian intelligence networks actively trying to stoke racial and political tensions across the Western world using proxies. Handlers paid vulnerable people in cryptocurrency to act as proxies to spray paint racist, anti-Muslim and anti-Ukrainian graffiti, and have set up fake far-right groups to lure in like-minded locals and coax them into committing arson and attacks on community centres. The strategy behind those real-world attacks goes beyond physical damage. The true aim is to manipulate the public narrative, breed paranoia, stoke racial hatred, and turn communities against one another by making it look like the attacks are coming from inside the house. And to be clear, these kinds of misinformation campaigns aren't exclusive to the Russians. We've done them as well. Just look at what happened to Iran in the 1950s or how the FBI targeted the civil rights movement in the 60s. Sinestro is executing the exact same psychological warfare, just on a comic book scale. So how do we actually fight against a weapon designed to tear us apart from the inside out? The answer is pretty simple, and it is exactly what Static Shock puts on display. The ultimate defense against a strategy of division is solidarity. When these operations happen in the real world, the goal is to make us look at our neighbours with suspicion. They want us to react with pure, cold rage. But we break the cycle the moment we refuse to swallow the bait. We defeat the manipulation by pausing, looking past the manufactured chaos and asking the one question these bad actors dread: who actually benefits from us fighting each other? In Fallen Hero, Static perfectly demonstrates how to handle a community crisis. When the world turned on John Stewart, Virgil looked closer, found the truth, and then quite literally lent his own power to a hero who had been stripped of his voice. Yes, he may have been outraged initially, and was even prepared to turn his back on John, but when evidence to the contrary literally fell out of his pocket, he had the sense to pick it up and investigate. And what's more, he listened. That's how you beat a false flag. You don't let the noise dictate who your enemy is. Instead, you do what Static did. You become the jumper cable for the people who need it. You stand by your community and you build connections so strong that no amount of outside interference can break them. If you value these unfiltered looks into DC cartoons, then there are a couple of ways that you can help support my channel. First, you can pick up a copy of my book, Rogues Gallery, which is available now globally on Amazon. It has a beautiful cover by Batman the Animated Series background artist John Calnett, a foreword by the director Dan Reba, and a moving segment by the late great Kevin Conroy. There's also an exclusive essay about the Condiment King, which I will never turn into a video essay so long as I live. So if you want to read that, pick up the book now. You could also hit the thanks button, or become a channel member for $1.99 a month and get early access to all of my video essays. Just like these people whose names have been scrolling by on screen for the last minute or so. Huge thanks to them, because without them, these videos might not have been possible. Take care everyone, hope to see you next time.